In the dark corners of the galaxy, where stars burned out and silence swallowed entire systems, there was a name that made even the bravest captains whisper instead of speak. They called it the Sleep Dragon. For thousands of years, alien civilizations passed the story from one world to another, each tale more terrifying than the last. The Sleep Dragon was not a myth, not a legend born from fear. It was real. Entire fleets had faced it, and entire fleets had been erased. No one remembered what the first encounter was, but the records left behind told of a creature that was bigger than a planet's moon, its wings stretching like cosmic sails, its scales shimmering with the cold light of dying stars. The dragon slept for decades, sometimes centuries, hidden in forgotten parts of space, wrapped in shadows. And then, without warning, it would awaken. A single stir, a single movement of its colossal body, and entire worlds would fall silent. The alien races learned one rule about the sleep dragon: never wake it. Because once it opened its eyes, nothing could stop it. Armadas of warships had tried. Energy weapons had burned bright against its scales. Nuclear fire, antimatter bombs, plasma storms, none of them left even a scar. Every empire in the galaxy had failed. They called it untouchable. They called it eternal. But most of all, they called it unstoppable. So, whenever the galaxy whispered the legend, one line was always repeated: no one could tame the sleep dragon. Yet, while others spoke with fear, humanity listened differently. At first, when the humans heard the stories, they laughed. Not out of arrogance, but because they found something strange in the tale. Why would such a powerful creature need to sleep? Why did it vanish after every destruction? Why did it not conquer? Why did it not rule? Why did it not feast on planets endlessly like the stories claimed? To humanity, the mystery was louder than the terror. On Earth, they had tamed wild horses, sailed oceans filled with storms, crossed deserts that no one thought survivable. They had faced beasts that were said to be untamable and built friendships with wolves, lions, and eagles. Humanity was curious, reckless, stubborn, and they believed that nothing in the universe existed without reason. So, when they heard about the sleep dragon, they did not see only danger. They saw a question that no one else had asked. For the rest of the galaxy, the story was a warning. For humanity, it was an invitation. The first serious mention came when a human exploration vessel picked up strange energy patterns near a dead star. The captain, a woman named Elara, studied the readings. The signals matched the fragments from alien archives, the same pulses that appeared just before the sleep dragon awoke in the past. The crew was afraid. Some begged her to turn back. The galaxy had already decided the truth. No one survived near the creature. But Captain Elara was human. She remembered Earth's history, the time when sailors feared the sea monsters of old maps, yet still pushed forward until they found new lands. She remembered the old words of explorers: if fear is the door, then curiosity is the key. And so, instead of retreating, she ordered her ship closer. As the vessel drifted near the dead star, the crew felt the silence first. No radiation storms, no cosmic dust, not even the faint whisper of particles. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then they saw it. At first, it looked like part of the star's broken shell. A massive shadow, still, unmoving, wrapped in darkness. But then the lights from their ship reflected, and the scales shimmered faintly, like frozen oceans under starlight. It was the dragon. Its body curled around the star's remains, wings folded as if the void itself was its cradle. Its chest rose and fell in the rhythm of sleep, each breath stronger than a planet's storm. Its eyes remained closed, but even closed, they radiated a presence that pressed on the human hearts like a mountain of weight. Some crew members whispered prayers. Some froze. Some cried without knowing why. The sleep dragon was not just large. It was endless. A creature so vast that even describing it felt wrong. And yet, humanity did not fire weapons. They did not flee. They did what no one else had done before. They watched. They listened. They tried to understand. The sensors detected something strange. The creature's heartbeat, if it could be called that, was irregular. Its energy signature shifted between violent surges and sudden calm. It was not a monster feeding. It was not a beast planning war. It was dreaming. Captain Alara whispered to her crew, "It is not awake. It does not hunt. It only defends itself when disturbed." Her words were quiet, but they struck like thunder. No alien archive had ever considered that possibility. No empire had ever stopped to wonder why the dragon destroyed. They only saw the fire. They never saw the silence. Humanity, with its history of empathy and defiance, saw both. Still, fear was real. One wrong move, one wrong sound, and the creature could open its eyes. The galaxy's record said that when it awoke, the light of its gaze burned ships into dust. And yet, Captain Alara did not order retreat. Instead, she made the most human choice of all. She stayed. Out in the galaxy, the news spread. The humans had found the sleep dragon, and they had not died. The aliens laughed at first. They said the humans would last hours, maybe days. They said the dragon would soon awaken and tear them apart. But secretly, in the halls of their governments, fear grew. Because if the humans somehow succeeded where no one else had, then everything would change. And so, in the shadow of the dead star, humanity watched the creature sleep. They sent gentle signals into the void, not weapons but waves of sound, like lullabies. They studied its dreams through faint energy echoes. They treated it not as a monster, but as something ancient, wounded, and mysterious. They believed that if the galaxy had failed to tame it, then perhaps taming was never the answer. Perhaps what the creature needed was not a master, but a friend. The sleep dragon stirred slightly, its wing twitching as cosmic dust scattered in waves. Every sensor screamed in alarm. Every crew member froze. For a heartbeat, they thought death had come. But then the creature exhaled, and the silence returned. Humanity had touched its dream, and the dragon had not destroyed them. Not yet. And somewhere, hidden in that endless void, the galaxy whispered again. They said no one could tame the sleep dragon. But humanity was about to prove them wrong. The discovery of the sleep dragon near the dead star was not the end, it was the beginning. When Captain Alara's report reached Earth, the leaders did not respond with fear as other species would have done. They did not order fleets of warships or prepare weapons of mass destruction. Instead, they called together scientists, dreamers, historians, and engineers. For humanity, the dragon was not just a threat, it was an unanswered question, and humanity had always been drawn to questions. They formed a mission unlike any before, one that would travel back to the dead star and attempt something no race in the galaxy had dared. The plan was simple in words but impossible in practice. They would try to understand the sleep dragon. They called the Project Aurora. Unlike military operations, Aurora was quiet, almost secret, hidden from the galaxy's eyes. Only a few human allies were told, and even then, not the full truth. Most alien governments laughed when they heard whispers that humans were studying the creature. They thought humans were naive, foolish children playing with fire. But the truth was more dangerous than anyone knew. Humanity was not only studying, they were preparing to make contact. When the Aurora fleet arrived at the dead star, every ship was silent, their engines dimmed, their movements slow as drifting dust. They had learned from Captain Alara's first encounter that noise, energy bursts, or aggression could stir the dragon from its dream. So, they moved carefully, surrounding the creature at a respectful distance, never pointing weapons, never provoking. The dragon lay curled in slumber, its massive wings folded, its chest rising and falling like the tide of an ocean. The sight silenced even the boldest human hearts. Still, the mission continued. Scientists deployed special satellites designed not to scan with violence, but to listen. They recorded faint echoes from the dragon's energy waves, the patterns of its breath, the small pulses of light that shimmered across its scales as though dreams themselves were trying to escape. The signals were unlike anything ever seen. Some scientists compared them to music, others to heartbeat rhythms, and one linguist whispered that they were closer to language than random noise. This discovery electrified the team. If the dragon's dreams carried a language, then perhaps communication was possible. But not everyone believed. Some on the mission thought the plan was reckless. They argued that humanity was risking extinction by staying so close to the beast. One wrong step, one wrong sound, and the dragon might wake, bringing destruction on a scale no human had ever faced. Tension spread among the crew. Trust in the mission's goal was tested. Still, Captain Alara remained steady. She told them, "We came not to conquer, but to learn. If we flee now, we are no different from the others who failed." Her words carried the weight of human history. Humanity had always faced what others avoided. They had crossed frozen seas, climbed impossible mountains, walked on the moon. This was simply the next frontier. The first great test came when the dragon stirred. For 3 long minutes, its body shifted, its wings stretched, and its eyelid quivered as if opening. The entire fleet panicked. Alarms screamed, hands hovered over retreat controls, hearts pounded. But Alara gave a single command: hold position. Against every instinct, the fleet remained. The dragon's eye opened slightly, a faint glow spilling into the void. The humans froze, expecting instant death. Yet, after a long breath, the creature closed its eye again, sinking back into slumber. The message was clear. The dragon had noticed them, but it had not destroyed them. Humanity had passed its first trial. After this, the mission turned deeper. The scientists focused on the signals from the dragon's dreams. The patterns grew clearer. They were not random, they repeated, shifting with strange harmonies, like fragments of forgotten songs. A bold idea rose among the linguists and musicians. What if the dragon could be reached through sound, not weapons? Humans had used music to calm animals, to communicate emotions without words. Could the same be true for a creature beyond imagination? They built transmitters designed to send sound into the void, not with sharp pulses, but with gentle melodies. On Earth, they chose songs not of war, but of peace, ancient lullabies, soft harmonies, tones meant to comfort. When the first signal played into the silence of space, the crew held their breath. The waves traveled across the dark, brushing against the massive form of the dragon. 4 hours, nothing happened. Then, faintly, the dragon's scales glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with the human song. The crew gasped. The dragon was not attacking. It was listening. But peace did not mean safety. Word of humanity's mission spread through the galaxy. At first, alien powers laughed. Then, when whispers came that the dragon had not destroyed the humans, laughter turned into fear. If humanity succeeded in forming any kind of bond with the creature, their place in the galaxy would change forever. They would no longer be the young race, the newcomers with fragile colonies. They would be allies of the greatest power known. Some alien governments began to plan sabotage, infiltration, attack. They could not allow humans to succeed. Back at the Dead Star, the Aurora mission continued, unaware of how much danger was gathering in the galaxy. The team of scientists worked day and night. One among them, Dr. Marin, a specialist in neural resonance, proposed something radical. She believed that the signals from the dragon's dreams could be linked with human minds through advanced neural tech. If someone connected, they might enter the dragon's dream itself. It was dangerous. Too dangerous, some argued. If the dragon's mind was truly vast, entering it could consume a human consciousness forever. But Dr. Marin believed it was the only way to truly understand. She told the captain, every empire failed because they only saw the monster. We must see the dreamer. Captain Alara faced a decision that would define humanity's fate. To allow one of her crew to enter the mind of a being that had crushed civilizations, or to play safe and risk losing the only chance of peace. She chose the path humanity had always chosen. She chose risk. She chose courage. And so, preparations began for the most dangerous experiment in human history. As the mission worked, the dragon stirred again. This time, its body shifted more violently, wings unfolding slightly, a sound like thunder rolling through the void. The ships shook, systems flickered, and for a moment, the crew believed this was the end. But then, just as suddenly, the creature stilled. Its glow dimmed, and silence returned. Some said it was a warning. Others believed it was a test. But to Captain Alara, it was a sign. The dragon was aware of them. It had not destroyed them. It was waiting. And so humanity prepared to step into the dream of the most feared creature in the galaxy, not with weapons, but with hope. They did not know if they would survive, but they knew one truth that had guided them for centuries. Every great discovery begins with a step into the unknown. The galaxy had said no one could tame the sleep dragon. But humanity had no intention of taming it. Humanity wanted something far greater. They wanted to understand. The void was silent when the Aurora fleet prepared for what no one in the galaxy had ever dared to attempt. Dr. Marin stood inside the chamber of the neural resonance machine, her face pale but her eyes steady. Around her, cables connected to the glowing sphere at the center of the device, a machine designed to link her mind with the signals pulsing from the sleep dragon's dream. The crew watched with a mix of fear and awe. Some whispered prayers, some clenched their fists, but all of them knew that if she failed, her mind would shatter and the dragon might awaken in rage. Captain Alara's voice broke the silence. Remember, Marin, you are not fighting it. You are not controlling it. You are listening. Let it guide you. With a final nod, Dr. Marin closed her eyes as the machine activated. At first, there was nothing. Just darkness. Then a sound, low, deep, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The rhythm shook her bones even though she was not truly there. And then the darkness opened. She was standing inside a world that did not exist, a dream painted in fire and shadow. Towers of broken stars stretched around her, rivers of light flowed like blood, and in the distance she saw it, the sleep dragon, not sleeping, not curled, but standing tall, its wings spread across an endless sky. Its eyes glowed with storms, and when it looked at her, she felt smaller than dust. For a moment, terror crushed her chest, and she almost screamed. But she remembered Ilara's words. She did not run. She did not fight. She stood still and whispered, "I am not your enemy." The dragon's gaze was heavy, piercing through her soul. Its roar shook the dream world, a sound so powerful it bent the stars themselves. She fell to her knees, covering her ears, but the sound was not just noise, it was meaning. Words hidden in thunder. She began to understand. The roar was not rage. It was pain. Images flooded her mind, wars long before humanity existed, alien fleets striking the dragon again and again, weapons tearing at its body, fire and blood consuming galaxies. The creature had not sought battle. It had been hunted, attacked, feared, and so it destroyed only to survive. That was why it slept. That was why it vanished. Its dream was not a place of rest but a prison of memory, a cycle of pain that never ended. Dr. Marin's tears flowed as she whispered, "You are not a monster. You are alone." For the first time, the dragon's eyes softened. The storm inside them slowed, and the glow dimmed to a gentle light. A wave of emotion washed over her, confusion, sorrow, hope. The dragon was listening. Back in the physical world, the crew saw the readings spike wildly. Marin's heart rate soared, her brain patterns spiked in unknown frequencies, and alarms blared. The engineers shouted for Ilara to disconnect her, but Ilara raised her hand. "Not yet. She's reaching it." Inside the dream, Marin took a step forward. Every instinct screamed to run, but she held her ground. She raised her hand as if to touch the enormous creature. "We came to understand. We came to listen. We will not hurt you." For a heartbeat, the dream world held still. Then, slowly, impossibly, the dragon lowered its head until its eyes were level with hers. It did not speak in words, but its thoughts pressed into her mind, vast and ancient. A single message echoed through her soul. Why? The question almost broke her. How could she explain humanity's nature in a single breath? She thought of Earth, of children singing, of people building homes, of explorers crossing dangerous oceans, of countless acts of kindness and courage. She answered softly, "Because we are human. We search. We care. We believe there is always more than fear. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter, not in anger but in wonder, as if it had never heard such a thing. For countless ages, every race had come with weapons. Humanity had come with words. Outside, the dragon's body shifted. Its chest rose deeper, its wings trembled, and its energy flared. The fleet panicked, believing it was about to awaken. Weapons powered, escape routes plotted, but Alara shouted, "Hold position!" The dragon's movement was not wrath, it was response. Its massive form glowed in rhythm with the melodies the humans had sent earlier. It was answering the song. In the dream, the ground beneath Marin shook as the dragon stretched its wings. She feared it would crush her, but instead, the dream changed. The rivers of blood turned into rivers of light. The shattered towers became glowing constellations. The prison of nightmares melted away into a sky filled with endless stars. The dragon roared again, but this time, the sound was not pain. It was freedom. The dream dissolved, and Marin was thrown back into her body. The machine shut down with a violent spark, and she gasped for air, trembling, her eyes filled with tears. "It listened," she whispered. "It understands." The crew was stunned. Against all laws of the galaxy, against centuries of fear, a human had touched the mind of the sleep dragon and returned alive. Yet even as hope filled their hearts, danger stirred beyond the dead star. Far away, hidden fleets of alien empires watched the events with dread. Their spies confirmed the unthinkable: the dragon had not killed the humans. The aliens whispered in panic. If humanity succeeded, if the dragon sided with them, then the balance of power across the galaxy would break forever. Already, secret councils gathered, plotting to strike before it was too late. But in that moment, as the Aurora fleet circled the sleeping giant, humanity did not know of the danger. They only knew one thing. The dragon was no longer just a legend of death. It was something far greater. And for the first time in history, it had listened. Dr. Marin's body trembled for hours after she returned from the dragon's dream, her voice broken, her eyes haunted by visions no human had ever seen. She told the crew that the creature's mind was vast, like an ocean with no end, filled with storms of memory and fragments of pain. She explained that the sleep dragon was not a beast of destruction but a prisoner of its own past, trapped in an endless cycle of dreams that kept pulling it back into sorrow and rage. The crew listened in silence, their fear now mixed with sympathy. For centuries the galaxy had only seen a monster, but humans had looked inside and discovered something different: loneliness. Captain Alara stood before the viewing window, staring at the colossal figure curled around the dead star. "If its dream is a prison," she whispered, "then maybe we can set it free." Those words became the heart of the mission. Humanity would not fight the dragon. They would not try to tame it. They would try to heal it. Dr. Marin insisted on going back into the dream, even though her body was weak and her mind scarred. Others volunteered to take her place, but she shook her head. "It knows me now. If someone else goes, it might see them as an intruder. I must continue." Alara agreed, but only with stronger safety measures. Engineers worked day and night to stabilize the neural resonance machine. Musicians rewrote their melodies, creating softer harmonies to guide Marin inside. Psychologists prepared her with calming patterns, hoping to anchor her if the dream grew violent again. When the second connection began, the crew gathered around in tense silence. The machine hummed, light filled the chamber, and once more, Marin's mind fell into the abyss. This time, she did not land in darkness but in a vast desert of shattered mirrors. Each mirror showed fragments of the dragon's past. Fleets burning, worlds breaking, endless battles where the dragon fought alone against empires that feared it. The air was filled with roars of agony, not of triumph. Marin walked carefully, her footsteps echoing. The dragon appeared in the distance, lying across the desert like a mountain. Its scales were cracked, its eyes dim, as if even in dreams it carried wounds that never healed. She approached slowly and whispered, "I am here again. I will listen." The dragon's gaze lifted, and for a moment its eyes softened with recognition. Images poured into her mind, an alien armada firing first shots, accusations of conquest, endless cycles of attack and retaliation. The dragon never sought dominion. It only defended itself until the galaxy painted it as a monster. Marin's chest tightened as she felt its sorrow. She raised her voice gently, "You are not alone anymore." But the dream shifted violently. The mirrors cracked, and shadows rose from the ground. Shapes of alien warships, endless and countless, formed armies that surrounded her. The dream twisted, showing not just memory but fear. The dragon roared, fire consuming the horizon, but no matter how much it fought, more enemies appeared. Marin realized the truth. This was the dragon's torment, a cycle it could never escape. Every time it slept, the dream replayed the pain of betrayal and attack. "This is why it wakes in fury," she whispered. "It is trapped." She reached out with her thoughts, projecting calm, sending images of Earth's blue oceans, forests, children laughing, people working together instead of fighting. "See us," she said softly. "Not all who come are enemies." The dragon paused. The shadows froze. For a moment, silence filled the dream. Back in the real world, the crew watched as the dragon stirred. Its wings twitched, its scales glowed faintly, and energy waves rippled through space. The ships shook under the pressure, alarms blared, and panic spread, but Alara kept her command. "Do not move. Do not fire. Hold position." They obeyed, hearts pounding, trusting that Marin's connection was still alive. Inside the dream, the dragon leaned closer to her. For the first time, she felt warmth instead of fire. Its thoughts touched hers again, not with the question of why but with a trembling echo of something new. How? How could it escape this endless cycle? How could it ever be more than the monster the galaxy had named it? Marin fought back tears. "Together," she whispered. "With us." The dream shifted again. The battlefield faded, replaced by a quiet plain under starlight. The dragon lowered its head, folding its wings around her like a shelter. She felt its sorrow, but also its hope. In that moment, something changed. A bond formed, not control, not taming, but trust. The dragon allowed her presence in its dream without resistance. The crew monitoring the machine gasped as the energy readings stabilized for the first time. The dragon's body in the void stopped trembling, its breath slowed, its glow softened. For the first time in recorded history, the sleep dragon was at peace. Yet peace was fragile. Far away, alien spies reported what was happening. Councils of powerful empires gathered, their voices sharp with fear. If the humans truly bonded with the dragon, they would become untouchable. Old rivals would fall, power would shift, and centuries of control would collapse. Secret fleets began moving, cloaked ships preparing to strike at both the humans and the creature. The galaxy did not want the legend rewritten. They wanted it erased. But the humans did not know this yet. They only saw the miracle before them. When Marin returned from the second dream, she collapsed in exhaustion but smiled faintly. "It trusts us," she whispered. "It wants to believe." The crew cheered softly, tears shining in their eyes. Against all odds, humanity had done what no race in the galaxy had even attempted. They had reached into the heart of the most feared creature and found not a beast of rage, but a being longing for freedom. Captain Alara placed her hand on the glass, watching the dragon's sleeping form. "They said no one could tame it," she murmured. "They were right. It cannot be tamed. But it can be understood." As the Aurora fleet drifted around the dead star, humanity's mission had entered a new stage. They were no longer studying, no longer guessing. They were inside the dragon's dream, sharing its pain, guiding it toward peace. But shadows were gathering beyond the stars. Enemies prepared to strike, and the fragile bond could be broken with one violent act. The crew did not yet know how close danger was, but they knew one truth with unshakable certainty. Humanity had taken the first step into the impossible. The sleep dragon was not untouchable anymore. It was listening. It was trusting. And soon, the galaxy would learn that trust was more powerful than fear. The Aurora fleet floated quietly near the dead star, their lights dimmed, their systems running soft to avoid disturbing the colossal figure of the sleep dragon. The crew celebrated their fragile victory in whispers, knowing they had touched something no other race had ever reached. Dr. Marin rested in the medical bay, her body weak but her heart steady, repeating the same words to anyone who asked, "It trusts us." For humanity, this was more than a discovery. It was hope. They believed that soon the galaxy would see the truth, that the most feared creature was not a monster but a dreamer, and humanity was the first to listen. Yet, far beyond their quiet orbit, the galaxy was not celebrating. In hidden chambers of alien empires, fear spread faster than light. Leaders from rival species gathered in secret councils, their voices sharp with rage and panic. They had built their power on fear, on the legend of the dragon as untouchable. If the humans succeeded in breaking that legend, everything would change. The humans were young, reckless, and stubborn, but if the dragon stood beside them, they would rise higher than any old empire could control. So the aliens chose a darker path. They would strike, not with words but with betrayal. In the shadows of deep space, cloaked fleets began to move. Warships from 3 rival empires, old enemies of one another, united under one mission: destroy the humans before they bonded fully with the dragon. They armed themselves with weapons forbidden by treaties, technologies hidden from the galaxy, and spies already planted near the Aurora fleet. For weeks, these spies had sent coded signals, small enough not to disturb the dragon but clear enough for their masters to follow. Humanity, blinded by their focus on peace, never saw the knives gathering in the dark. Captain Alara, however, felt unease. Standing by the viewing glass, she watched the faint glow of the dragon's scales as it slumbered peacefully. Something in her instincts whispered danger. She had been a soldier before she became an explorer, and soldiers did not ignore the weight of silence. She ordered patrol drones to sweep the surrounding void, but the reports came back empty. No fleets, no threats, nothing but stars. Still, the feeling did not leave her. She shared her fears with Dr. Marin, who was preparing for her 3rd entry into the dragon's dream. Marin listened quietly, then said, "Perhaps the danger is not around us, but behind us. The galaxy does not want this to happen. If I can feel the dragon's fear inside its dream, then surely others will feel fear in their hearts out here." Ilara nodded, her jaw tightening. "Then we must be ready." Inside the councils of the alien empires, decisions were made without hesitation. They would not wait for humanity to finish their bond. They would attack while the humans were still fragile, while the dragon still slept. If the humans resisted, both they and the creature would burn. "Better no dragon than a dragon in human hands," one alien general declared, and the others agreed. The fleets moved closer, still cloaked, hidden like shadows behind shattered asteroids and drifting debris. They waited only for the signal to strike. Back on the Aurora, the crew continued their mission. The scientists refined their music, building harmonies that resonated deeper with the dragon's energy. Engineers enhanced the neural machine so that Marin could stay longer in the dream without losing herself. The crew whispered about what would happen when the dragon finally woke. Would it see humanity as friend or foe? Would it rise in fury or in trust? None knew for sure, but all believed they had already changed the story. They had already proven the galaxy wrong. The betrayal came quietly at first. One of the human ships suddenly reported a system failure. Engines flickered, life support weakened, alarms blared. The crew scrambled to fix it, believing it was only a malfunction. But Captain Alara's instincts sharpened. She demanded a full scan and found something horrifying, a coded virus inside their systems, planted weeks ago, waiting for activation. The virus was transmitting their exact position across the stars. Ilara's eyes darkened. "This is no accident. Someone is guiding them to us." Even as she spoke, her words came too late. The sensors flared with warnings. Shadows appeared at the edge of the void. Warships uncloaked one by one, their weapons glowing with terrible power. The crew gasped in disbelief. Ships from rival empires, sworn enemies of one another, were standing side by side, united only by their fear of humanity. Ilara gave the order to raise shields but not to fire. They could not risk waking the dragon with violence. The alien fleets did not wait. A volley of energy blasts erupted, slamming against the human defenses. The Aurora ships shook violently, alarms screamed, sparks flew. Yet Elara refused to counterattack. "Do not fire," she shouted. "We cannot bring battle to its cradle." The crew obeyed, but fear filled their hearts. They could not fight, they could only endure. The dragon stirred, its massive body shifting slightly, wings twitching as the shockwaves reached it. Its eyes did not open, but its energy began to rise, and the galaxy held its breath. Inside the medical bay, Marin felt the dragon's unrest even before the alarms rang. She rushed to the neural machine, her voice trembling. "If it wakes now, in fear, it will destroy everything." Elara grabbed her shoulder. "Can you calm it?" Marin swallowed hard. "I must try." Against every warning, she entered the machine again, diving straight into the storm of the dragon's dream while battle raged outside. The dream this time was chaos. Fire burned across the skies, enemy ships swarmed, and the dragon roared in fury. It felt the attack outside and believed the old cycle had returned, that once again the galaxy had come to kill it. Marin screamed against the storm. "No. Not us. Not humanity." But her voice was drowned by thunder. She pushed deeper, showing it visions of Earth again, visions of peace, of trust, of friendship. Slowly, painfully, the storm hesitated, confused by the contradiction. Outside, the alien fleets pressed harder, their blasts hammering the human defenses, their voices filled with triumph as they shouted across comms. "You cannot protect it. You will all burn." But Elara did not surrender. She gave orders to draw power to shields, to hold every line, to buy Marin time. Her voice rang steady even as explosions shook the ship. "We will not break. We will not leave. If we fall standing beside it." Her crew shouted in return, their fear turning to fire. Humanity was not retreating. They were enduring. In the dream, Marin reached the dragon's eyes again. She pressed her hand against the burning light, crying, "Listen! We are not like them. We came to stay, not to harm. Please, trust us." For a long, endless moment, there was only silence. Then, a single thought echoed through her soul: stay. The dream calmed, the fire faded, and the dragon's wings folded slowly. Outside, its body grew still again, its glow softening. Humanity had held it back from waking in wrath. But the alien fleets were still there, preparing for the final strike. Humanity had proven their loyalty to the dragon, but the galaxy had chosen betrayal. The next volley of weapons charged, brighter and deadlier than before. And as the Aurora fleet braced for destruction, the dragon stirred once more, not in rage this time, but in defense. The Aurora fleet shook under the relentless fire of the alien armadas, shields flickering, hulls groaning as energy blasts rained down without mercy. Humanity stood on the edge of destruction, their ships smaller and fewer, their weapons silent by Elara's command. They dared not strike back, for one wrong move could turn the dragon's fragile calm into unstoppable fury. Yet even in silence, their defiance glowed. They refused to retreat, they refused to abandon the creature they had promised to protect. Captain Elara's voice echoed through every ship, steady and unshaken. "We will not fire. We will not leave. We will hold the line." Her crew answered with the same resolve, their hands shaking but their spirits strong. For them, this was no longer about orders. It was about loyalty, about trust, about proving that humanity was different from the rest of the galaxy. Inside the dragon's dream, Dr. Marin fought to keep the bond alive. The creature trembled in confusion, sensing the battle outside, its old memories of betrayal and slaughter rising like flames around her. The skies of the dream burned with visions of endless wars, and again the dragon roared, ready to unleash destruction. Marin pushed against the storm with everything she had. She sent images of Earth, of human laughter, of children running in fields, of oceans shining under the sun. She showed the dragon the Aurora fleet standing tall, taking the blows without fighting back, their shields raised not for conquest but for protection. "Look at them," she cried. "They stay even when death comes. They are not your enemies. They are your friends. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter, its breathing slowed, and for the first time, its storm of dreams began to bend. It did not rise in fury. It began to listen. But outside, the alien fleets were preparing for the final strike. Their leaders watched from command bridges, their voices cold and sharp. The humans stall, but they will not last. End it now. Burn them before the dragon wakes. Weapons charged, gathering energy enough to split entire moons. Humanity's shields could not endure another round. Elara knew it. Her crew knew it. Yet no one spoke of surrender. In the silence of the bridge, Elara's mind raced. Fighting would wake the dragon in rage. Staying still meant death. There had to be another path. And then, an idea came, as reckless as it was desperate. If we cannot fight with fire, we will fight with faith, she whispered. She ordered every ship to redirect their power, not to weapons, not to shields, but to the broadcast array. Confusion rippled through the crew, but they obeyed. Soon, across the void, the Aurora fleet began to transmit music once more, the same harmonies that had touched the dragon before. The melodies of Earth spread like ripples of light, soft and defiant, carrying hope into the darkness. The alien commanders laughed. They sing while they die. Pathetic. But as the final volley prepared to fire, something happened that none expected. The dragon moved. Slowly, its colossal head lifted, eyes glowing brighter than suns, wings stretching across the void. Every alien ship froze, their crews struck silent by terror. The dragon was not waking in rage, it was waking in answer. The melodies of humanity echoed in its heart, pulling it from its prison of pain. Its body glowed with waves of energy, not of fury but of protection. For the first time in centuries, the dragon was not rising to destroy but to shield. The alien fleets hesitated, their weapons trembling on the edge of release. If they fired now, they would strike not just the humans but the dragon itself. Fear and greed battled in their minds. Some demanded retreat, others demanded fire. The councils had promised victory, but none had prepared for this. Humanity had gambled with trust, and against every law of survival, the gamble was working. Marin felt it inside the dream. The dragon's storm had calmed, the skies clearing, the mirrors of old battles fading into light. Its voice, ancient and deep, reached her mind not as thunder but as a whisper. You stayed. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered back. We promised we would. The dragon's eyes glowed with a warmth she had never seen before. It was not fury, not sorrow, but something closer to peace. Outside, the dragon's wings spread fully, casting shadows across stars. Energy flowed around its body like rivers of fire, but it did not strike. Instead, it lowered its massive form between the alien fleets and the fragile human ships. The Aurora fleet gasped as the reality struck them. The dragon was shielding them, not destroying them. Humanity's gamble had won its heart. But the danger was far from over. The alien fleets, blinded by their fear of losing control, did not retreat. Instead, they chose madness. Fire! Their commanders screamed. Fire before it bonds with them completely. And so the stars lit with a storm of weapons, beams and torpedoes rushing forward like a flood of death. The Aurora fleet braced, shields trembling, but the dragon's body shone brighter. The storm crashed against its wings, but the blasts shattered harmlessly, absorbed into its glowing scales. The dragon roared, not in pain but in defiance, a roar that shook the galaxies, a roar that told every race watching that the legend had changed. Inside the Aurora bridge, the crew watched in stunned silence, tears streaming down their faces. They were alive. The dragon had chosen. Captain Elara clenched her fist, her voice low and firm. They said no one could tame it. They were right. We did not tame it. We stood by it. And it stood by us. Around her, the crew whispered in awe. Humanity, fragile and small, had earned the trust of the galaxy's greatest terror. But Marin knew the bond was fragile, still young, still untested. In the dream, the dragon's voice carried one more whisper, filled with both hope and warning. They will not stop. More will come. If you stay with me, you take my burden. Marin nodded without hesitation. Then we will carry it together. In that moment, humanity made its greatest gamble. They had chosen not weapons, not fear, but trust. And now, as the alien fleets reeled in shock and scrambled to decide whether to attack again or flee, one truth echoed across the stars. The sleep dragon was no longer alone. It had humanity at its side. And the galaxy, whether it wished or not, would never be the same. The galaxy trembled in silence after the roar of the sleep dragon shook the stars. For every fleet, every soldier, every commander knew they had just witnessed the impossible. The most feared being in history, the creature once thought untamable and merciless, had placed itself between fragile human ships and the combined might of ancient empires. No one could understand it, no one could accept it, yet no one could deny it either. Humanity had earned its shield, and that act alone broke centuries of legend. The Aurora fleet floated in the shadow of the dragon's wings, their crews staring out of the windows with tears in their eyes, for they were alive when death was certain. Captain Alara stood at the bridge with her hands trembling, her voice a whisper. It chose us. She knew those 3 words would echo far beyond their ship, for history had just turned a page. Yet even as the humans celebrated, fear and rage burned within the alien commanders. To them this was not a miracle but a curse. If the dragon stood with humanity, then no empire was safe. Orders flew across comms, generals screamed for reinforcements, and entire fleets began to mobilize from across the stars. The war was no longer about stopping the dragon. It was about crushing humanity before the bond grew unbreakable. Inside the dragon's dream, Dr. Marin felt the weight of that truth as clearly as the fire around her. The creature's voice whispered in her mind again, heavy with sorrow yet firm with resolve. They will come for you. They will come for me. They will not stop. Marin lifted her gaze, meeting the glowing eyes of the ancient being. Then we will face them, she said, her voice trembling but filled with courage. Not as master and servant, not as tamer and beast, but as allies. The dragon lowered its massive head until its breath swept across her, hot like the wind of a furnace. For a long moment it said nothing, as if weighing her words against centuries of pain. Then finally, in a voice that thundered through her soul, it spoke. Then I will swear an oath. As long as you stand, I will stand. As long as you stay, I will fight beside you. The words shook her to her core, for they were not simply a promise but a bond older and stronger than any alliance of men. Outside, the dragon lifted its head high, wings stretching across the void like shields of living fire. The alien fleets that had dared to attack faltered, their weapons dimming, their soldiers trembling at the sight. The roar that followed was not one of fury but of declaration, a sound that carried across frequencies, into the hearts of every living being that listened. The sleep dragon had chosen. It had sworn itself to humanity. The Aurora fleet erupted in cries of awe and relief, their voices mixing with tears, their hands clasped together in unity. They knew the galaxy would not forgive them for this, but none of them cared. They had done what no race dared dream of. Yet Captain Alara understood the cost. Standing before her crew, she did not smile, she did not cheer. Her face was hard with determination. This is not the end. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will hunt us now. They will send fleets, armies, assassins, everything they can. We have earned the dragon's trust, but with it, we have also inherited its enemies. Her words silenced the cheers, but no one looked away. They knew she was right. They were no longer explorers, no longer scientists. They were the guardians of something that could reshape the stars. Back in the alien councils, chaos reigned. Some leaders shouted for retreat, warning that striking again could awaken the dragon's wrath against their own worlds. Others demanded immediate war, arguing that letting humanity rise would doom them all. Old rivalries vanished in the face of fear. Enemies who had fought for centuries now plotted side by side, planning weapons powerful enough to pierce even the dragon's scales. Secret projects were unlocked, forbidden experiments revived, all for one purpose: kill the bond before it could change the balance of power. And in their shadows, spies were sent, Whispers carried through the void, seeking any weakness in the human heart. The Aurora fleet remained unaware of these schemes, but they felt the pressure building like a storm on the horizon. Marin shared the dragon's words with the crew, telling them of the oath it had sworn, and though they rejoiced, they also carried the weight of its meaning. The dragon's trust was no small gift. It was a burden of destiny, one that demanded sacrifice. Marin herself felt it deeper than anyone, for she alone had stood inside its dream and heard the voice of eternity. She knew that their survival would not depend on strength alone but on faith, on holding fast even when the galaxy turned against them. Days passed, but peace did not return. Alien fleets gathered in silence, hiding in nebulae and shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Rumors spread across the stars like wildfire. Some called humanity saviors, others cursed them as fools who had awakened a curse. On neutral worlds, crowds filled streets with debates, some praising the courage of the humans, others demanding their extermination. The legend of the dragon was no longer one of fear. It was now a story of choice, and that made it more dangerous than ever. Within the Aurora, Captain Alara made preparations. She ordered the fleet to rearm, not to provoke war but to survive it. Engineers worked day and night to strengthen defenses, scientists tuned their instruments to maintain harmony with the dragon's presence, and soldiers sharpened their skills, ready to fight not to kill but to protect. Our greatest weapon, Alara reminded them, is not fire. It is the trust we carry. We cannot lose it. We cannot break it. Her words became the heartbeat of the fleet, repeated in quiet whispers across mess halls and engine rooms. One night, as the dragon floated silently in the void, Alara stood before the window, her reflection small against its colossal form. Marin approached, her face pale but her eyes burning with fire. "Do you believe we can survive what's coming?" she asked softly. Alara did not turn away. "I believe we must. If we fall, the galaxy falls back into fear. If we stand, even if we are broken, we give them hope." Marin nodded, and in her heart, she knew Alara was right. Humanity's gamble had become humanity's burden, and now it was too late to turn back. The dragon's eye opened then, just for a moment, a glow like the heart of a star shining upon them. And in that light, both women felt it again. The oath, the promise, the bond that tied their small, fragile species to the greatest power in the galaxy. It was not just the dragon's oath anymore. It was humanity's as well. They would not run. They would not surrender. Together, they would face whatever storm was coming. And far beyond, in the halls of the enemy, those storms were already gathering. The oath of the sleep dragon spread through the stars like fire in dry grass, carried by whispers, intercepted signals, and trembling voices that dared not say the words aloud yet could not stop them from escaping. Humanity had done the impossible. They had not tamed the dragon, they had earned its trust, and now the galaxy itself was split between those who feared this new bond and those who secretly hoped it might bring change. But hope was dangerous, and fear was sharper than any blade, and so the galaxy began to move in shadows. While the Aurora fleet floated near the ancient dead star under the dragon's protective wings, far away entire councils of alien empires plotted their next step. They had already failed to kill the humans in open battle, for the dragon itself had shielded them, but now they chose another path, one built on silence, infiltration, and deception. They called it the War of Shadows. No longer would they send fleets alone, they would send whispers into the human heart, spies into their ships, traitors into their ranks. If they could not destroy humanity with fire, they would break them with doubt. Captain Alara knew this was coming. She stood on the Aurora's bridge, gazing at the endless void, her thoughts heavy. "The first battle is over," she told her officers, "but the war has just begun. They will not charge us again so quickly. They will come with masks, not guns. We must be ready for the war we cannot see." Her crew listened in silence, their eyes grim. They had survived energy blasts and storms of fire, but whispers and betrayal were harder enemies to fight. Dr. Marin, still recovering from her dream journeys, warned them too. "The dragon feels it," she said softly, her voice thin. "It senses hands reaching for us in the dark. It does not know where, but it knows they are coming." The crew looked at one another, and fear tightened their throats, but Alara's voice rose again like steel. Then we hold together. We trust each other, no matter what. That is how we win the war of shadows. The first shadow strike came quietly. One of the smaller human ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly. Rescue teams rushed aboard, expecting damage or failure, but instead they found sabotage. Systems had been cut with precision, codes overwritten by someone inside. The traitor had vanished, leaving no trace, but the message was clear: the enemy was already among them. The crew grew restless, suspicion creeping into every glance, every silence. Who could it be? Who had betrayed them? The danger was not only in the saboteur's hands but in the mistrust it sowed. Friends who had shared meals now avoided eye contact, soldiers whispered behind closed doors, and the unity that had carried them through fire began to crack. Alara refused to let fear win. She gathered the crew in the great hall, her voice firm but filled with raw honesty. "Listen to me," she said. "The enemy wants us to turn on each other. They want us to fight ourselves so they don't have to. But we are not fools. We know who we are. We are the ones who stood against the galaxy when no one else dared. We are the ones the dragon trusts. If we break now, we break that trust forever." Her words struck deep, and though suspicion did not vanish, the crew tightened their resolve. For Alara knew the only shield against shadows was light, and that light was trust. Meanwhile, the alien empires pressed harder. Hidden agents infiltrated neutral colonies, spreading lies about humanity. "They control the dragon," the whispers said. "They will unleash it upon us all." Merchants carried poisoned messages, smugglers delivered weapons to rebels, and assassins prepared to strike at human envoys. It was a war without borders, fought not in great battles but in rumors, sabotage, and assassinations. Yet humanity did not bend. For every lie, they sent truth. For every shadow, they lit fire. And always, behind them, the dragon's shadow stretched, reminding the galaxy that one mistake could bring down its wrath. But not even the dragon could stop betrayal within. One night, as the Aurora fleet rested, a small shuttle detached itself in silence, cloaked from sensors. On board was a spy, a human officer who had been bought by alien gold and fear. He carried a beacon, small but deadly, designed to pierce even the dragon's dream and pull hunters to their location. He smiled coldly as the beacon activated, sending a signal through the void. But he never finished his mission. For as the beacon pulsed, the dragon stirred. Its massive eye opened, glowing brighter than the stars, and in an instant it turned its gaze upon the shuttle. The spy screamed as energy surrounded him, not fire but light, and the shuttle dissolved into nothing. The crew gasped in terror, but Marin whispered. It was not rage. It was justice. The dragon knows who betrays. The war of shadows deepened. Attacks grew sharper, lies spread wider, but something else grew too. Across the stars, small races, weak and long oppressed by the great empires, began to look to humanity with new eyes. They heard the whispers but also saw the truth, that the humans had not used the dragon as a weapon, they had stood beside it, protecting it with their own blood. And in that courage, the smaller races found a spark of hope. Quietly, secretly, emissaries began to reach out to the Aurora fleet, offering information, offering aid. The galaxy's balance was beginning to shift. Yet Alara knew hope alone would not save them. She called her officers together, her face carved with determination. "The war of shadows will not end on its own," she said. "They will keep sending spies, keep sending lies, until either we fall or they do. We cannot wait for them to strike again. We must strike back, not with fleets, not with fire, but with truth. We will go to the heart of their councils. We will show them the dragon's oath. We will show them we are not their enemy, unless they make us one." The crew stared in shock, for her words meant leaving the safety of the dragon's side, entering enemy space with no guarantee of survival. But slowly, one by one, they nodded. For they knew she was right. The dragon itself seemed to answer, its vast body shifting in the void, its energy flowing brighter as if it had heard her plan. Marin felt its voice in her mind, soft yet powerful. If you walk into shadows, I walk with you. She smiled faintly, whispering back, then the shadows have already lost. And so humanity prepared for the boldest step yet. The war of shadows had begun with lies and fear, but now it would be met with something stronger. With courage, with unity, with the oath of a dragon and the resolve of a fragile species that refused to break. The galaxy did not yet know it, but the true war was only beginning. The galaxy was not silent anymore, it was burning with rumors, whispers, and fear as the news of the sleep dragon's oath to humanity spread like wildfire. Entire empires were trembling, not because of the dragon's power alone, but because of what it meant, that a fragile young species had achieved what no ancient race could. The alien councils called an emergency summit, one that had not been held in 1,000 years. They named it the Council of Fire, for it was meant to decide the fate of humanity, the dragon, and the balance of power across the stars. Armadas converged on a single system, their warships surrounding a massive ring station carved into a dying sun. Inside, leaders from 100 worlds gathered, each carrying the weight of their people's fear. They spoke in tongues sharp as blades, some demanding the destruction of Earth, others urging caution, a few whispering of hope. But one truth echoed louder than all: humanity had changed the game. Captain Alara knew they had no choice but to face this council. To stay away would mean guilt, to remain silent would mean weakness, and in weakness the empires would strike without hesitation. So she made the boldest decision yet. The Aurora fleet, shielded by the dragon's vast wings, set course for the Council of Fire. As they traveled through the void, her crew's hearts were heavy. To walk into the heart of their enemies was madness, but Alara's eyes burned with resolve. "We must not hide," she said to her officers. "If we want peace, we must show them who we are. Not with fear, not with lies, but with truth." Dr. Marin stood beside her, pale yet unshaken. "And the dragon will walk with us. That alone will shake their council more than any fleet." When the Aurora fleet arrived, silence fell across the gathered armadas. Thousands of ships surrounded the ring station, their weapons hot and ready, but none dared to fire, for behind the humans loomed the sleep dragon itself, vast as a planet, its glowing eyes watching all. The council chamber trembled as Alara entered with Marin and a handful of her crew. The leaders stared at them in disbelief, their voices rising in angry waves. "How dare they come here? How dare they walk into our council with that monster at their back?" Some pounded their fists, others shouted for their arrest, but Alara walked forward with steady steps, her voice calm. "You call this the Council of Fire," she said, her words echoing through translation devices. "Then let fire be truth. Let it burn lies away. We come not as conquerors, not as masters of the dragon, but as allies who chose trust over fear." The chamber erupted again, leaders spitting venom. "Lies," one alien spat, its scales flashing red. "You control it. No beast would stand with you unless enslaved." Another hissed, "You are dangerous. If the dragon follows you, then you are a threat to every world. You must be destroyed before the bond deepens." Yet there were others, quieter but firm, who spoke differently. "And what if they are right?" asked a pale, bird-like leader. "What if the dragon has chosen them not as slaves but as partners? Does that not mean we must rethink everything we thought we knew?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber, fear clashing with doubt. Then, without warning, the chamber itself shook. The walls vibrated, the air crackled, and every heart froze as the dragon's roar thundered across the void, shaking the council station to its core. Through the great windows, its massive head lowered, one glowing eye staring directly into the chamber. For a moment, every leader felt it, not rage, not destruction, but presence. The weight of an ancient being watching, listening, judging. Marin stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "It is not enslaved. It is not tamed. It chose. Just as we chose to stand with it. It could have destroyed us. Instead, it shielded us. That is not control. That is trust. And that is what frightens you most." Her words struck deep, for they revealed the truth behind the council's rage. They were not only afraid of the dragon's power, They were afraid that their own people, long ruled by fear, might begin to see hope in humanity's bond. The debates grew hotter, sharper, like blades clashing in the dark. Some demanded an immediate vote to launch a united fleet and erase humanity from the stars. Others demanded more time, more proof, more caution. And amid the chaos, Elara stood silent, waiting for the storm to pass. When at last the noise broke, she spoke again, her voice calm but cutting through like steel. You fear what we may become. But you forget what you have already become. You who sit in your halls of power, ruling through fear, enslaving the weak, crushing those who dare to dream. That is why the dragon never stood with you. That is why it turned from you. It did not want chains, it wanted trust. And for the first time, it has found it. Not in strength, not in wealth, but in us. Her words hung in the air like fire, burning at the pride of the leaders. Some shouted back in fury, others sat in silence, but none could deny the truth within them. As the council argued, far beyond their walls, secret fleets moved. The war of shadows was not idle. Armies waited in dark space, weapons primed, ready to strike no matter what the council decided. Humanity's presence in the chamber was a spark, but war was already a fire waiting to ignite. Marin felt it in her heart, sensing the dragon stir with unease. It knew the danger was not only in the words spoken here, but in the fleets gathering outside. She turned to Elara, whispering, "Even if they listen, others will not. We are walking into a trap." Elara nodded grimly. "Then we walk with eyes open." At last the council reached its breaking point. A decision was demanded, war or recognition. The vote began, voices called out one by one, some for destruction, some for dialogue, the chamber shaking with division. And then, as the last votes echoed, the chamber lights flickered. Explosions rang outside. The station trembled violently as alarms screamed. Through the great windows, fleets emerged from shadow, weapons firing not at humanity but at the council itself. Rebels, mercenaries, secret forces, those who wanted chaos more than order, had chosen this moment to strike. The Council of Fire was now engulfed in real fire. Elara's crew drew their weapons, protecting Marin as leaders screamed and guards clashed. The dragon outside roared, unleashing its light to shield the station from destruction, even protecting those who had called for humanity's death. In that moment, truth blazed brighter than lies. Humanity had come not to destroy but to protect even their enemies. And as the battle raged around them, the galaxy began to see with new eyes. The Council of Fire burned in chaos, fleets clashing outside the station, leaders screaming inside as betrayal tore through their walls, and in the middle of it all humanity stood, small yet unshaken, protected by the wings of the sleep dragon. The great beast unleashed waves of light across the void, shielding the station from destruction, even saving those who had called for humanity's death. And in that moment the galaxy saw the truth with its own eyes. This was no weapon to be used, no beast enslaved, but an ancient guardian that had chosen to protect because it trusted. Captain Elara raised her voice above the noise, commanding her crew as they defended the council floor from assassins who had infiltrated the chamber. "Hold the line. Protect them all, friend or foe, it does not matter. They must see who we are." Her soldiers obeyed, forming a shield around Marin and the other diplomats, their courage shining brighter than the fire around them. Dr. Marin felt the dragon's presence in her mind, its voice heavy and sorrowful. "They will not stop. Even if this battle ends, others will come. But if you stand today, they will remember. Not my roar. Yours." Tears filled her eyes, yet her voice was firm. "Then we will stand. Together." Outside, rebel fleets hurled themselves against the dragon, their weapons glowing with forbidden energy stolen from ancient vaults. Bolts of darkness slammed into its wings, tearing through scales, and for the first time the galaxy saw the great beast bleed. Cries of horror filled the station as crimson sparks drifted like stars across the void. But the dragon did not fall. It roared in defiance, its voice shaking suns, and unleashed a wave of fire that consumed the attackers without mercy. The sight froze every leader, every soldier, every spy in awe and terror. And yet, amid the destruction, the dragon did not strike at the innocent ships that carried civilians, or the neutral fleets that had not fired. Its fury was precise, its will clear. It was not chaos. It was choice. Elara seized that moment. She stood in the center of the council chamber, her voice echoing across every channel, every translator, every frightened ear. Look at what you see. Not destruction. Not enslavement. Not conquest. Choice. The dragon chose us. And today it chose to save even those who hate us. If you cannot see the truth now, then you are blind not by nature but by fear. Her words cut through the noise like a blade, and many leaders who had once shouted for humanity's death now fell silent, their eyes clouded not with rage but with doubt. For doubt was the first crack in fear, and through that crack light began to seep. But the battle was not yet won. The rebels pushed harder, determined to break the council, to shatter any chance of unity, for they knew if humanity survived this day, the legend would never be silenced. Explosions shook the council floor, guards fell, and chaos threatened to consume all. Then something happened no one expected. Smaller races, the ones long ignored and oppressed by the great empires, stood up. Their leaders raised their voices in the chamber, crying out, "Enough! We see the truth. Humanity did not bring war here. You did, with your fear and your greed. The dragon is not your enemy. Your own hearts are." Their voices spread like sparks, igniting others. The chamber that had once been filled only with threats now rang with defiance, not against humanity but against the very fear that had ruled for centuries. Marin felt the dragon's presence grow brighter, its strength returning not through fire but through the voices rising in courage. The bond between it and humanity deepened, glowing like a star. The beast lowered its head to the station, and for a single heartbeat the entire chamber was bathed in its light. In that glow, every leader felt what Marin had felt in the dream, a presence ancient, vast, but not cruel. A presence that had waited eons for someone to choose trust. And they understood. The legend of the untamable dragon was broken, replaced by something new. The dragon was not a curse. It was a mirror. And humanity had shown the galaxy what could be reflected. The battle ended with silence. The rebels were scattered, the station saved, the dragon wounded but alive, and humanity standing unbroken. No treaty was signed that day, no grand alliance declared, but something greater was born. Fear cracked, and through that crack a new possibility emerged. The empires who had once spoken only of destruction now spoke of caution, of dialogue, of watching humanity instead of erasing it. It was not peace, but it was survival, and survival was enough. For legends are not born in victories. They are born in survival against impossible odds. As the Aurora fleet prepared to leave the station, Captain Elara stood once more before the council. "We do not ask you to love us. We do not ask you to trust us. We only ask you to see us for what we are. We are not masters of the dragon. We are its friends. And for that, we will carry both the gift and the burden. If you choose to come against us, then know this, we will not run. We will not surrender. We will stand." Her words were simple, but they struck harder than any weapon, and in their silence the council leaders understood. They had witnessed the birth of something that could not be undone. Back aboard the Aurora, Marin stood by the great window, gazing at the dragon as it drifted beside them, its wounds glowing faintly but healing with time. She placed her hand against the glass, whispering, "You gave us more than survival. You gave us meaning." The dragon's eye opened, warm with light, and though no words were spoken, she felt its answer deep in her soul. It was not gratitude, not command, but a bond eternal. They would walk together into whatever future awaited. And so the story spread. Across colonies and worlds, across ships and stations, across the stars themselves, the legend changed. No longer was it said that no one could tame the sleep dragon. Now the whispers carried a new tale, that humanity had not tamed it, but proved it could be trusted, and in doing so had written the first chapter of a legend that would echo through eternity. The galaxy did not yet know what would come, war or peace, unity or destruction, but one truth was clear. Humanity had carved its place among the stars not with chains, not with conquest, but with courage, trust, and a roar that was no longer just the dragons but their own. It was the dawn of a new legend, and it had only just begun.